Welcome to an episode of Saving the Rainforest. Today is D-Day. What's D-Day all about? BBC News has something interesting to say. On this day, 1944, it marked the start of a European invasion. Thousands of Allied troops have begun landing on the beaches of Normandy in northern France against the start of a major offensive against the Germans. Thousands of paratroopers, glider-borne troops have been dropped behind enemy lines, and Allies are said to have penetrated several miles inland. So I guess it's sort of a comforting moment for people to know that they're advancing beyond, the British were advancing beyond Britain with their allies, their friends, their companions, the French. Winston Churchill says, the Normandy landings is proceeding in a thoroughly satisfying manner. So that would have been a bit reassuring, but hope for people. They need hope. Sometimes hope isn't an amazing thing because hope's almost gambling with your emotions and feelings because you're expecting something, you're hoping for something. You don't know if it's going to happen or not. When it doesn't happen, it can really cripple you emotionally if you really put all your hopes into something. With faith, faith is something different. Faith is a feeling deep inside. I don't think it can be associated with hope. Faith and hope, people always put those words together, but they're two entirely different things. And so much tragedy, and with tragedy comes a lot of reinvention. Britain after that totally changed the face of Britain, and a lot of people would have lost loved ones, physically and emotionally as well. People would have come back from the war, entirely different people, having to rethink their outlook on life. And that's the same, isn't it, with any kind of tragedy? You often have to rethink yourself and sometimes reinvent yourself. Or they put a lot of hope in God and being a very God-fearing. They put a lot of, God's on my side. God is going to help us because we believe in God and He is on our side. I'm sure the Germans were maybe saying something very similar. The Western approach for gods is a God form that is separated. Humans have lost their finite relationship with Him because of sin, and they can't communicate with Him. He's gone, but He still helps. The Eastern philosophy of gods is something entirely different. It's an entirely different view of gods. God is internally, not externally. And we can connect, but we have to go deep inside to the root of the consciousness. I like some of the sayings of this in the Bhagavad Gita, and it actually talks about reinvention during times of stress. There's 3 kinds of happiness which a conditioned soul enjoys. Conditions mean we're conditioned by our friends and family, where we live, the weather, the things we read. We even condition our brain being something entirely different from our minds. Our brain being like your muscles. Essentially you could chop them off, but you'd still be you. How much of you do you chop off and you've still got your brain or your mind left? Well, anyway, you train that. You have the initial thought, I want to train the muscle. The muscle is just a normal muscle. So get training, and eventually you're reinforcing the muscle, and it gets to the size you want it. The same is with the brain. The mind can have its initial thought, but when we think and dwell on particular things, we train our brain to get strong and recognise a certain pathway and make it more usable and stronger, and eventually that brain will start running along those thoughts, freeing you up to think about other thoughts. So you really can train your brain to condition it. The 3 modes of happiness which a conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. It gets too much. You're in a war, everything's happened. You've lost friends and family. What has happened? Was God really on my side? I've seen so much bloodshed. I don't know. I'm so distressed. It says, then which in the beginning may be just like a poison. It's all this stress. It's like a poison. You don't know if it's going to kill you or if you're going to survive. You don't know. It's just too much for me to handle, too much stress. What's going to happen? But by the end, it's just like nectar, that revitalising sugar. So the poison turns into sugar. And which awakens one to self-realisation and said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So it's an opportunity, a bit of stress, a bit of anxiety can be turned around and can be turned into nectar, an opportunity to revitalise yourself and to reinvent yourself and become something different. Use that stress. Stress sometimes can destroy old ways of thinking. The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and the disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. So they come and they go. They arise from sense perception. So I see what I see around me and I perceive it. It's basically just happening whether I like it or not. Things just happen. But I sense, I perceive it as a good or bad thing. They arise from sense perception. One must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So I guess things always happen. But how much control do we have? How much free will do we have? Is there such a thing as free will? Bio-centrism by Dr. Robert Lanzo. Bio-centrism is a cute little word to sort of combine everything, a oneness, a zenness, in a quantum way and scientific manner. So I guess it's very similar to the Eastern philosophies as well, of God being eternal and being a oneness with your surroundings. Your surroundings are actually part of you. Life, however, is a flowering and unfolding and experiencing that we can't even wrap our logical minds around. Experiences may be conceived as an adventure, or perhaps interludes in a melody so vast and eternal that human ears cannot appreciate the total range of symphony. So, when the ball is moving, we really don't know what's going to happen. What's going to happen with life, it's very hard to predict. But can we learn to live and cope with unpredictability? Well, lastly, I like the thoughts of a possibillion. A possibillion, the act of exploration of new ideas in the comfort of the scientific temperament of creativity, holding multiple hypotheses. I celebrate possibility and praise uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen in life, but we're all going through the same human experience. And I think if everyone can just see the central point of the consciousness is love. This is the part we'll have. When we're dreaming, we don't have time to be sinister or bad. We're just dreaming. This is a very basic, raw state of the conscious mind. It seems when it filters out through the ego, that's when we can warp and corrupt things. But really, inside everyone, I think everyone has opportunity and greatness to be something amazing. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Safe in the Brain Forests. Really just providing everyone with the tools to realise that they can think about anything they want to think and free one up to move their thoughts and use their free will in a manner that they find soothing. Sometimes we're enemies of ourselves and we use our free will and things we don't want to do, like thinking about what other people are thinking. What a futile event that is. Anyway, thanks for listening. Save the brain forest.